Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today I'm talking about a simple imposter syndrome solution. Which sounds really far too formal for me, doesn't it? But it's something that just came out as I was typing up the kind of words to go with this. I just ended up typing the simple imposter syndrome solution. And I like a bit of alliteration, so that's working for me, I have to say. Because I just have become really aware that so many people that I'm speaking to at the moment are struggling with imposter syndrome. And I'm not really even sure I even like the phrase or the title imposter syndrome, but people understand what that means, and so it's helpful to have that in place to talk about it. It isn't really a syndrome. That's like it's some kind of illness. It isn't that at all, but I suspect you understand it as being something that feels like it's immovable, that it's part of you, that it's something that is hanging about there all the time. And I was chatting to a lovely lady earlier this week, and I just suddenly came up with this metaphor for the imposter syndrome, because this is how I see it. You are going through life merrily choosing and making your choices and probably feeling sometimes like, yo, that's something amazing to do. I feel guided by it. Or you're just living your normal life, doing your thing, running your business, doing your job, whatever else it is. And there is this voice inside your head, chunnering away. I don't know if you're familiar with the word chunnering. I may have made it up, but it is a voice that is going in the background. And it's saying things like, you're not good enough, you can't do this, you're not clever enough, who do you think you are? Nobody's going to like that. Your boss is going to think that's outrageous. And comically, if you are your own boss, probably the same voice is going, you're going to regret this, whatever. It's like, I don't know, a drunk old lady in the corner of the pub. Sorry to all the drunk old ladies out there. That's not meant to be a judgment of you. Now, I think I've had a relationship with this voice that has changed over time, because I distinctly remember feeling like that voice had my best interests at heart, really believing it, it feeling like a really good friend who was, looking after me and keeping me on the straight and narrow, and probably somewhere along the line getting me to work harder so that I could prove the voice wrong. So it's a voice that pushed me on and made me do things and got me to be more successful, because I kept trying to be more successful until I burnt out, obviously. And so that voice used to feel like my friend, my support, my confidant, somebody who you would listen to, a trusted advisor, perhaps. But that voice hasn't necessarily got your best interests at heart. That voice really is coming from that place. At some point, it made sense for you to believe a voice that said, you need to do better. So, you come home with your 18 out of 20 spelling test result, and somebody says, what about the other 2? Oh, so, 18 is not good enough. And so in order to stay out of somebody saying, what about the other 2, and us feeling a bit deflated, then we push harder to get the 20 out of 20. But that little voice stays in our heads and tells us pushing ourselves too hard, perhaps, in order to please the little voice in our heads. Now, that little voice may have first said that when we were 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that, but that voice has hung around and it still thinks its job is to keep you safe. So it carries on twittering away in the background. And the reason why at first it can feel like your trusted advisor or friend or support or whatever is it's just been there a long time. It's a bit like I'm really familiar with my nose. I don't kind of argue with it or get it to move, or I'm not going to. Some people do get the shape of their nose changed, don't they? But I'm happy with my nose. I'm familiar with it. It kind of feels part of me. I don't know where that came from, but anyway, we will proceed. And so that voice feels the same. It just feels very familiar, and I suppose like an old comforter when you're a child, it's just there, or like a friend. But I have to tell you, folks, that Niggly Nelly isn't really your friend, and that's the only change that needs to happen. So this is why this is the simplest of possible imposter syndrome solutions, is that it is realizing that voice isn't really your friend. So we listen to our friends, don't we? Perhaps we take advice from them, even from our parents, perhaps even as adults. There's certain people we reach to take advice. Problem is, we've been taking our advice from Niggly Nelly, who was first installed in our heads when we were 5 or around that time. Now, so all we need to do is realize that Niggly Nelly isn't really helpful, perhaps. Now, one of the ways we can tell that a Niggly Nelly isn't helpful is that we feel physically held back by what she's saying. We feel dreadful. We feel bad about ourselves. Probably feel that physically in our body. Well, there's a clue. There's a clue that Niggly Nelly isn't really guiding us in a very sensible direction, because her words, the thoughts, are making us feel terrible. So the simple solution is not to try and get rid of Niggly Nelly, because trust me, she's quite a stubborn old she's a stubborn old woman, shall we say, and she isn't going to move just because you start shouting affirmations at her. She probably will dig her heels in even further. But here's what happens as you start to distance yourself from Niggly Nelly, is, that voice in your head, is you just start to it's starting by just going, actually, I'm not going to listen to that today. That voice going in the background. I'm going to just do what I think's right to do. And so almost you're just taking a little step away from Niggly Nelly, and just ignoring a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean that she won't sit in the corner with a gin and tonic moaning at you. She will, because she's been around a long time. She doesn't really want to be pushed out into the cold. So that voice in your head will stay around. But the more action you take that Niggly Nelly is saying you can't take, the more things you do, and the more you just carry on, regardless of Niggly Nelly. It's keep calm and carry on while Niggly Nelly niggles away in the background. The more you do that, the more Niggly Nelly will just creep off into the corner and get quieter and quieter. And she probably will. I still get voices saying, I still get a voice in my head saying, yeah, who do you think you are? You're not good enough at this. You're a rubbish coach. You're blah, blah, blah. I still get that all the time, but not as much, and not as loudly. But it still pops up. It's like now Niggly Nelly sat in the corner over there. She's got a gin and tonic. She's got several, actually. And I'm not sure why Niggly Nelly's an alcoholic, but she's sat in the corner with a gin. And she's still, every so often, just shouting something out, like a drunk old lady might do in the corner of the pub. But we don't have to listen to that. And she's getting quieter and quieter because we're just ignoring her. And that's why it's simple, because it's about changing your relationship with that voice. Putting it out in the cold a bit, not having it feeling like it's your cozy friend and it's there to look after you, but pushing it away a bit, ignoring it really. And the thing is with thoughts, when you ignore them, they just go. I mean, it's really that simple. It's that simple. It's not so complicated. You don't have to do loads of affirmations or meditations or gratitude journals or journals of any description. You just can ignore that voice. And the way we can learn to do that is by having a conversation with somebody who helps you to see that voice is not real. And I spend a lot of time with my clients just pointing out how amazing they are, how wise they are, how they've got this, how the next step forward is coming to them, despite the fact it might feel a little bit sticky sometimes. And over time, it's simple, because the more you ignore Niggly Nelly, the less she actually turns up. She just fizzles out. She gets bored because nobody's listening to her, just like anybody else would if nobody listened to them. Eventually, they just stop talking. So get curious about your Niggly Nelly. I don't know why she's called Niggly Nelly, but anyway, she is now. So there we go. Enjoy getting curious about what happens when you just step forward, take the next step, take the next action in life, and ignore Niggly Nelly and her nonsense about how you're not good enough. Sending lots of love as you explore this. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.